This is Live from Nowhere, a broadcast to benefit crew members who are currently unemployed. And I'm Gordon French. I spent the last 20 years managing Rudy's Music in New York City. And today I'll be talking with the awesome Sadler Vaden, acclaimed solo artist, songwriter, producer, studio musician, Grammy-winning member of Jason Isbell and the 400 unit, not to mention all-around guitar hero. Sadler, happy to have you with us. Welcome.
Hey, Gordon. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, man. So let's just start off. From what I hear, you are a massive Oasis fan. Tell us all about that.
You know, part of that is due to my childhood and what was popular when I was coming into an age where, you know, music had an effect on me.
Right.
So I was born in 1986. So, you know, when I was 10 years old, Oasis they were probably the biggest band in the world at that point, at least for about half a year. So I think a lot of that's just due to, you know, what I grew up on, but I think that their music has aged quite well. I think the songwriting is something special in the sense of the melodies were so big. And even if you didn't know what the song was about, which I still don't know what some of the songs are about, that's okay because they created these songs that so many people can sing along with. And a song like Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger, I mean, those songs have really stood the test of time. And I think they're almost more popular now than they probably were at the time.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it speaks to the fact that it's good songwriting. I mean, you can have stuff that's really popular at a given time that's really of the zeitgeist, but if it's not a good song, it doesn't hold up. There's a lot of stuff I listened to as a kid that I absolutely loved, and going back now, I'm like, still great, but it sounds a little dated.
Yeah, I think their stuff doesn't sound, you know, it doesn't sound too dated. You know, anything you listen to, I think that they did go for that timeless thing, and they just made rock music. So I think it holds up. You know, they're a polarizing band, though. You know, it's kind of like they're not like, oh, I like them. It's sort of like you love them or you just cannot stand them. You cannot stand Liam Gallagher's voice or the way the Gallagher brothers interact with each other or whatever. But, you know, they really are masters of like manipulating the press and things like that. I mean, so I don't know. They bring me joy. But yeah, I do think you know, I would love to see them reunite just because I would love to go see them live and feel that again, because I got to see them one time and it was just such a great rock show, you know.
Yeah.
Their presence was pretty powerful, and seeing Champagne Supernova performed live in an amphitheater or an arena or wherever, like, it's just special. I don't know what it is, but yeah, just one of those moments where you feel good to be alive when you're experiencing that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually checked out your Twitter feed, and you've been kind of publicly vocal about agitating for a reunion. So let's say your dream comes true. In your mind, what's the perfect venue to see him in? How would you like to see that show?
Oh, man. You know, I think it'd be awesome to see them in New York or something, like super rock and roll, you know, like Beacon or even Madison Square Garden, something like that. Just like, because New York City to me is just such a rock and roll place. I don't know. I love it there. You know, I've gotten a chance to play a lot of venues, you know, touring the world with Isbell and the 400 unit. So, you know, I've never seen a show at Red Rocks, although I've played like 4 or 5, but I would like to see, really, I'd like to see anyone there. I just like to be in the crowd and experience that. But I think like Oasis at Red Rocks would be,
that would be pretty badass.
That would be biblical, as they would say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. All right, so you touched on another aspect of Oasis that we're going to key in on here for a second. They're famous for 2 things, their music and the epic fights between the 2 brothers. So we thought we'd play a fun little game here called the Brother Gallagher's Famous Fight Trivia Game. In 1994, at an NME interview with John Harris, the brothers were bickering, particularly about an incident that happened en route to a gig in Amsterdam. What was that incident? A, Liam was thrown off the ferry and fined £1,000 for being rowdy. B, Noel had thrown a tantrum because Liam wouldn't allow him to stop at a church on the way. C, Liam went missing after meeting some fans at a gas station. Or D, Noel fell asleep on the bus from drinking and was late to the gig.
Those are all so great. It's A.
It is definitely A. I kind of wanted it to be B, to be quite honest. I just love the idea that Noel would want them to stop for a church on the highway.
B and C just made me laugh really hard.
What we're going for. All right, here we go. 1996 at the MTV Unplugged taping, Liam sits in the balcony heckling Noel throughout the shoot while drinking champagne, his drink of choice. What was the reason for Liam not singing at that show? Was it A, Liam had broken his foot and the painkillers left him groggy and forgetful? Was it B, the brothers had gotten into a fist fight and Liam had suffered a broken rib? Was it C, Noel had kicked Liam out of the band during rehearsals? Or was it D, that Liam claimed that he had a sore throat?
You know, the obvious would be C, like Noel kicked Liam out or whatever. It's D.
One of the many times. Yeah. Yeah, it is indeed D. And the fun fact about this is that apparently they had to redo the first song at some point at the end of it, and he apparently miraculously recovered by that point and asked if he could join the band, at which point I think Noel told him to just piss off. Sounds totally appropriate for Oasis.
Yeah. How mad would you be, though, if you were Noel and he was sitting in the... I mean,
it's MTV.
Yeah, I mean, but that's, you know, that's I don't want to get off on the side, but that's that was sort of the beauty of that era too, and sort of that rock and roll nature. Stuff like that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, and you're right. I mean, the whole ethic has changed now. There is that, again, you're so rowdy that you get kicked off a ferry. You know, you're such a prima donna that you need to sit out. I don't think you'd see Jason doing something like that. No. All right, I got one more for you.
All right.
In 2009, just before Oasis was to take the stage at a festival, the brothers got into a massive fight in the band's dressing room, involving plums and swinging guitars that led to Noel leaving the band for good. Oasis had to cancel their appearance as a result. What festival was it? A, Glastonbury, B, Bonnaroo, C, Rock and Sen, or D, Rock am Ring?
Can I use a lifeline? No. I'm going to go with C, Rock and Sin.
You are correct, sir. I think you have earned your status as an Oasis mega fan.
I'm a true Oasis fan, for sure.
Yeah, love it. It's great. So I want to talk a little bit about your album. Anybody out there, I've been listening to it for the last couple of days. I'm actually up in the Catskills with a bunch of friends, and it's been in regular rotation here on Pandora and Spotify and everything. I love it, man. It's a classic rock and roll album. It's got a great vibe to it. I heard that the whole thing kind of evolved out of a single you had done called Good Man that's on the album.
Yes, that's true. The 2 years leading up to me recording this new record, I was putting out just singles. Like I put like 3 songs out, and you know they did well. I put out a full length, my self-titled first album in 2016, and so 2018 and 2019 I just put singles out. So I was writing, and I you know, with the current climate at the time, I was writing this song about the narrator realizing the privilege that you know he had in his place in the world, and wanting to just keep doing good, or just, you know, be good. And I thought it was like an interesting phrase to keep repeating over and over. And I thought that would be a really cool hook, and the anthemic nature of it to exist in the world, like something that's repeating. I want to be a good man. I want to be a good man. I want to be. I just thought, you know, if I can focus in on the sentiment and the lyric and get that right, I think this would be a good song. And I hope I did. And after I finished it, I said, you know, I don't want to just put this out there as a single. I feel like it should have other songs around it, and to be more of a complete piece. So yeah, it did start out. You know, anybody out there really did start out around Good Man.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a killer tune. It's one of my favorites on the album. When I first heard it, it kind of almost has like a Bowie-esque vibe to it. I felt like it would have been perfectly at place on Ziggy Stardust.
Man, that's a huge compliment. Yeah, yeah. It was like, I mean, I'm a big Bowie fan. I'm just a huge like glam British rock fan, you know, especially music of that era. And yeah, you know, it's funny. They're playing that song on Outlaw Country on Sirius XM.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like super proud that they're playing on Outlaw Country, although, you know, I don't know if it necessarily fits like that format, but it's funny how where you're coming from, like I was coming from this place like of like an Oasis Bowie approach to that.
Sure.
Um, and I also wanted a band I used to play in called Driving and Crying has a song called Honeysuckle Blue. And
Hmm.
I also was kind of wanting to write a song that was reminiscent of that with like a main riff, you know, that happened. And although Good Man's kind of like the minor key version of that. But it's funny, like when you get done with something, you perceive it as the writer as this, but, you know, it gets played on Outlaw Country, you know, which is, I find to be really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Your album seems to me kind of thematically to have some things that seem really timely, at least from my position right now. You know, you've got songs like Peace and Harmony, which seems to me at least, to be about people constantly, you know, we're in this world where we're getting bad news hammered over and over. We've got, you know, the internet, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, everyone's really polarized. And just this notion of like, you know, trying to find some peace for yourself, trying to find a way to back away from that all. And then even with the, some of the other tunes, Right Now and anybody, I'm sorry, Be Here Right Now and anybody out there. Again, same kind of notion of like this constant bombardment of stuff that personally I feel like I need to kind of distance myself from and find my own like equilibrium in the world again.
Definitely. Yeah, there is a thematic element to the album, and I didn't do it on purpose, but I think it's just a product of the times that we're all experiencing. And I think I was just trying to, with this album, I don't know, I was just trying to dig some of those feelings out of me, you know, whether or not like I am the person in the songs. I was just trying to write about my perception of the world around me, you know, and that's something Jason and I have talked about too. I mean, he's talked about that in conversations we've had about how he writes. You know, it's not how he writes every song, but it's kind of an exercise to use, and that really is what started Good Man. He talked about this exercise that he just writes, you know, what is around him in the room, like literally just items. Like he just writes about what's around him in the room, and I thought that was really a great exercise to do. So that's where I started with Good Man. I was like, wanting to write a song that day. I'm looking at the guitar, wanting that song to come out. And then I just all of a sudden had this sort of moment of awareness about like, well, man, I'm so privileged to, you know, I've had privilege since day one, you know?
Yeah.
And so the song starts out in a way where it's completely different where it ends up, you know, which is kind of a cool thing. So I think that's why the album has that element, because we're all connected yet very disconnected. It's just very strange to me. Like the purpose is to get more connected, but we're really only disconnecting, and we're connecting from like the tangible things that are just around us. And I just had been experiencing that a lot more in the last couple of years with being on the road and just sort of the social media, the real big rise of that. You know, it really is part of everyday fabric now for so many people. So yeah, it was weighing heavy on me. I think it creeped its way into a lot of the songs on the record.
No, well, I think you kind of tackle it really well. And again, it kind of gives it a really cohesive nature as an album. You were talking about Jason, and I was wondering, you know, you've been with him for a number of years now. Has working with him affected the way you approach writing songs?
It's definitely made my work ethic stronger. You know, him and I are, you know, of course people will, you know, I put out a new album, 2 months later, 400 Unit has a new album. Like, of course people like to compare us. It's like, well, you know, you wouldn't really compare the two of us if I didn't play in the 400 Unit, you know, you would just listen to this music as this guy put out this record. But the truth is, like, we're different, you know, we're very different songwriters. Like you know, every one of my songs, like I extract hope out of every single song. Right. You know, I can't help it. Like it can start in a place of sadness or, a place of regret or whatever. But I do like things to have like a power pop element to it, and a lot of major key songs and stuff. What I've learned from Jason, I've learned a great deal is, to edit yourself, to really just work on each line, ultimately it's up to you when you call it a day on a song, like if you feel like it's good enough. But I think it's really good to just keep editing, to go back through and find those words that maybe could be said better, or maybe could have a better rhyme scheme, because words are powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
he said it before. He's like, we don't necessarily need like guitar licks or riffs, but words. We need more words. So
Yeah.
that's really true.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always think of Bob Dylan, who seems to constantly be re-editing even songs he's recorded multiple times. It's like the lyrics seem to evolve and change over time.
Yeah. I think that's the powerful thing about writing a song by yourself. I mean, you can do anything with that song.
Yeah, 100%.
For years to come, perform it live and change any lyric you want to. It's yours. The fascinating thing about songwriting to me that, I'll say this, like I've never really considered myself a songwriter, although I am. I write songs and I've done it for a long time. It's because I've never made my sole living off of writing songs. So I've conditioned myself. You're a guitar player. You're not a songwriter. So, but I am. But the fascinating thing about writing songs to me is how something wasn't there and it is now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't there in the universe 20 minutes
And you're creating something.
And now it's here. And whether it's good or bad, it's still here. And to me, that is like just the coolest thing. Like I wrote a song on my first record. It's called Get You High. And it's just super simple, fun, like big star power pop song. And I just was so proud of and the song is 2 minutes and 15 seconds, which I'm very proud of too. Very cool.
Ramones would be proud of you too.
Yeah. And I was like, this is just so cool that this wasn't here 30 minutes ago. And now it is.
Yeah.
This in the world. So I won't ramble on about that too much, but it is a very cool thing.
So it's interesting. You were talking about being a guitar, or thinking of yourself as a guitar player more than a songwriter, and as a guitar geek, like listening to the album, which you produced, by the way.
I did.
Yeah. I mean, the guitar sounds awesome. I mean, your playing's fantastic. I love the slide work on it all, just as a guitar geek. On Modern Time and Peace and Harmony, it's like, it's really subtle. It's beautiful. It's just for me to nerd out on,
Yeah. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, that's something like I didn't play a lot of slide on my last record. Maybe a song or two, but I do play a lot of slide in the live show with the 400 unit. So it has heavily, become a heavy part of what I do, especially live with Jason. So, this record, I don't know. I just heard a lot more slide guitar going on in those songs, and like some of the main themes being slide. And I was really digging into a lot of old Joe Walsh and stuff, while writing the record. And I kind of wanted to make something that it was just that type of record that was heavy on the guitar, but it didn't sacrifice, the worth of a song. It wasn't just a vehicle for me to play like a guitar stuff. It's like I really was bearing down on the lyrics and trying to write good songs. But
well, I think at the end of the day, and this goes back to what you were saying about Oasis, the songs and the bands that I think don't sound dated years later are people who worked on writing a good timeless song, communicating some sort of story. And that notion that I grew up in the 80s too, so it's like there's so much of the guitar music out there where it was like, we wrote this song, it's going to be a great vehicle for the solo. And it's like, a 4-minute guitar solo with 2 minutes of like shoddy lyrics in it.
Yeah.
And you don't touch on that at all.
Yeah. Good. I don't listen to music like that.
Yeah.
That's not the music I like. I love The Who and Todd Rundgren and, just stuff where there was great playing and great musicianship and composing and things like that, arranging, but the lyrics were good. They were trying to write great songs. And like, I noticed that all my favorite like guitar players were sometimes the primary songwriters in the band, Jimmy Page,
Yeah.
Townsend, you know, like those are my heroes.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I get that. I don't know, early on, I just was like, wanted to write songs and do that because I looked up to those guys and they wrote songs, you know, and produced and did all that.
It's anecdotally, I remember hearing a story about some bar in Harlem that like all the great jazz musicians used to go hang out at, you know, after hours, after one played their gigs, and about Charlie Parker walking in there. And, you know, this is the guy everyone looks up to, everyone like adores, wishes they could be as genius as he is. And he'd walk in, get a drink, go to the jukebox and start putting on country songs. And, you know, no one really had the guts to question him until finally someday some kid walks up to him and says, you know, Bird, like, love you, man, but why are you putting on these country songs? And, you know, his response was something effective like, sometimes I would just want to hear a great story.
Yeah. There's a lot of weight to that. And, you know, true, like traditional country music, the voice is such an instrument.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, George Jones, man, I mean, what an instrument, you know, and what a nut, but what an instrument, you know? And I think just being musicians and stuff, I think we're all just sort of when we're listening to music, I think we're just wanting to feel something, whether that's the words, whether that's the voice, the melody, the guitar playing. I think that's what we're all kind of looking for, how it affects our heart, you know?
Yeah, well, it's like you were saying earlier, it's another way to connect. In a world where we have all these other things disconnecting us, a good song can connect you.
It's amazing what just some words and some words can do. I mean, it really is, it's fascinating.
That's great. So I was reading something that you wrote before, and you made a really interesting comment that I really kind of keyed in on listening to your album, which is you made a comment about us being in a genreless period of music. You know, so much of what's guitar driven, if it's not a country song, gets kind of jammed into the Americana, you know, category. And then I listened to your album and I'm like, fuck, man, this is a great rock album. I love the fact that it doesn't seem to like you're just making good music regardless. It didn't seem like it was you know, trying to fit into any genre. You were just writing you.
Yeah, I think I've been frustrated with rock and roll as a genre of music. No one calls it a genre of music anymore. Like, just no one says like, oh, they're a rock and roll band, or that's a rock and roll album. I made a rock and roll album. I'm certain of that. The Americana genre, as great as it is, and I love it, it did swallow up. You know, when I was 15, it was called alt country. And then it became Americana. And like, so, you know, when you're making rock and roll music, I always call us a rock and roll band. If you want to put us on the country charts, like, it ain't my band, but if you want to put us on the country charts, whatever charts you want to put us on, that's great. Who are we to say, like, don't do that? But if anyone who has seen us live knows that we're a rock and roll band. You know, no one was calling Neil Young and the Crazy Horse an Americana band.
Yeah, 100%. And I can attest that I saw you guys last summer in Brooklyn, and it is a rock and roll show. Actually brings me to my next subject, which is, you know, you're a busy guy. Back on March 6th, you released the album. And then Jason Isbell and the 400 unit, you guys released a new album just, what, a week ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a phenomenal album, but again, it's listening to it, it's a rock album. I mean, well, even if you want to call it a rock album, but it's funny, it doesn't fit into any particular box.
Yeah, it would, you know, back to rock and roll as a genre. I mean, it would fit into that box because it has those elements of the blues, it has those elements of folk writing and country, and I mean, that's what rock and roll is, you know. So,
yeah, 100%.
But rock means something entirely different now. It's like, it's like it's active rock, or it's hard rock, or, you know, whatever, you know, radio rock. But the roll part got lost, you know. So I think I just get you know, slightly frustrated with that, and that leads me to saying it's kind of genreless. Like, it's just, you just find whatever you like. I mean, Chris Stapleton's country, or is it Americana or pop or what, I mean, people are kind of slapping genres on everything,
Yeah, well, it's an easier way for them to market things, I suppose, is
Yeah.
kind of the.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of think like people don't really, I guess what I meant by genreless is I don't think they really listen to music that way anymore. They just kind of listen to what
Yeah.
they like. If it's hip hop, country, rock,
So the new album Reunions with Jason, some great guitar work on that too. Just listening to it. There's Running with Our Eyes Closed. You guys have this great interplay. It's almost kind of little Dire Straits-esque in a certain sense.
Yeah.
How much fun is it sitting in the studio with you guys, just kind of determining, he comes in with an idea and then just fleshing it out and figuring out how to play off of each other. Because I mean, you're a killer guitar player. Jason's a monster guitar player. It's got to be fun to dial it in.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, and we have Dave Cobb there who's producing. So he usually he helps us navigate that, because I think if me and Jason were just left to our own devices, we would probably play way too many things. Jason handles all the solos and things like that on his records. Not that I wouldn't play a solo or anything like that. It's just kind of his field, and that's what he wants to do when we make those records. So my job really is to try and create something that's going to be meaningful and leave space for Amanda and Derry and Jason.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because everyone else in the band, that's their instrument that they play. Me and Jason are the only ones that share duties of an instrument. Right. So, and obviously he's Jason, he's the main guy. So he's going to do what he wants with his record and his song. So I'm sort of like the wild card and like, okay, well, I've got to find how am I going to serve this song? Which is really the main thing to do. It's part of the bigger picture. It's not serving me licks and all this kind of stuff. It's like, what am I going to bring to the table that leaves space for Keys and Jason and Amanda? And, so there's a lot of things at play there, but it is a lot of fun. And that one, it's funny you brought that up, because that one I was really like proud of kind of what I did in that song. He plays the main Strat bluesy lick, and I sort of do the alternate da 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 da, the little call and answer.
Melodic, yeah.
Yeah, and then we came up with this really like cool cascading line that I put a capo on, and it did the main melody like the da 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 da. So that was like a really fun song to record.
That's awesome. So you've got 2 albums out in the last 4 months. You're enjoying some time off right now, some downtime. What have you been doing with yourself? What's on your agenda the last few weeks? Are you heading to the beach, doing a little cooking, taking up macrame perhaps?
Well, I've made a bunch of bread. No, I haven't made any bread. But no, I've been obviously playing a lot of guitar. I've been kind of diving into some elements of like jazz and stuff like that I haven't done in a long time. And I feel like I've really just been reconnecting with myself, like listening to stuff I haven't listened to in a long time, and trying to break away from social media too more and just play guitar and spend time with my wife. And I do enjoy cooking a lot. I love to cook. So that's
nice.
I would definitely I would say that's one of my hobbies outside of, I mean, guitar is my hobby. I'm lucky to have I've got a jobby. It's my job and my hobby, but
lucky man.
Yeah, very lucky. But cooking, I think, is one thing that I get really excited about and that I enjoy that's not music related.
Nice. Are you staying in touch with the crew while they're having time off as well?
Yeah, so I talk to everyone, generally like every other week, just kind of check in. And yeah, I think everyone's doing the same thing, man, just kind of enjoying the downtime, because for the last 7 years, we've been touring, very heavily.
Yeah.
But we love to do it. It is nice to have a little downtime.
Nice. Yeah, we actually did an episode of the Crew Room a couple of weeks ago with all the guitar techs, and we had Josh and Michael Bethencourt on, which was a lot of fun. So it was good to see those guys.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to the favorite part for me of the show. We're going to play a little game we like to call Name That Riff.
All right.
So I'm going to name a song, and we're going to see how you fare and how you stack up to the original if necessary. So our first song from 1964, if I'm not mistaken, the first song to ever use a fuzz pedal in the recording. Can you play for me You Really Got Me by the Kinks?
I think it goes.
There you go. Nice. Throwing a little like Van Halen whammy bar version of it, and you got me. Awesome. Okay, number 2, and this is the song that I used to tune my guitar to before I could afford a guitar tuner as a kid. 1969, Led Zeppelin, Heartbreaker.
All right, Heartbreaker. Here we go. Oh God. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, I love that. It was like one of almost blew. It was nice. You got it good. You got it in the end. Yeah, it's funny. As a kid, that was like one of the first songs. I mean, that was the album I think that got me starting to play. And I know the second note was an A, and I didn't have a tuner and hadn't yet discovered the wonders of the tuning fork. So that was what I tuned my guitar to.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're moving on. Our next song for you is LaGrange by ZZ Top.
All right, LaGrange by ZZ Top. There you go.
Dude, you know, it's funny. We have all these things queued up, so in case you don't get it, we can play it back. But I don't see that that's going to be necessary so far. Awesome. Sounds just like Pearly Gates. All right. Our next song by the Eagles in 1976, Life in the Fast Lane.
Life in the Fast Lane. There you go.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, our next one is the song Barracuda from 1977 by the band Heart.
Barracuda. All right, hold on.
You know, when you can like put harmonics into a heavy metal song, I think you're doing your job right.
That's right.
Okay, to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Running Down a Dream.
All right.
I like how you're changing your guitar tone for each song too, really getting into the spirit of things here. Just as good as the album.
Album quality.
You really dialed in the tone there. I love it. All right, so getting a little bit more modern here with our next one. We're going with Psycho by Muse.
Oh, I don't even know that. I don't even know what that song is.
Boys, we may have to listen to that one, see if we can get it on the sly.
Let's get it. Okay.
And he nails it, folks, after one listening. Awesome. Okay, keeping it classic and going back to somebody I compared you to, we're going to go with David Bowie's Rebel Rebel.
All right.
Killed it, man. I do love how you're actually getting the right effects to use for each song on the fly. What do you have there underneath you that you're actually dialing it on?
Well, with this Les Paul, I got aux4 pickups.
Oh, those are great.
And I wanted to be really nerdy and get the Jimmy Page wiring. So, I did that. So I've got the split coil on the bridge pickup here.
Right.
So that Muse song had like that telly glassy thing going on. So, this is without the split coil. And then with the split coil. So,
yeah, totally.
Kind of listening to if I think it's sort of a Fendery thing or if it's a Gibson thing.
I like, by the way, with the nerdy Jimmy Page wiring thing, that you even went super Page and kept the cover on your front pickup, but have the double black exposed in the back.
Yeah,
just for those of us who are real guitar nerds, it's a nice touch.
Yeah, I just went nerdy. I think it's like because I can't play like Jimmy Page. He's Jimmy Page, but it's like I wanted to get sounds. I just wanted to be able to dial in some different sounds on my Les Paul. Obviously, Jason has red eye, and he steps over to me, and we do a duel. He's got his 59. So what am I going to do? I got to think of something to do, right? So
you got to have some tonal options.
You got to have some tonal options. I do the split coil and go to the middle position, get kind of, out of phasey sounding. So
awesome. All right, well, listen, I got one more song for you. Every guitar nerd's dream song to play. Can you give me, please, Voodoo Child, Slight Return?
Man, you're going to, I don't have my wah-wah.
I know, no wah-wah. I know. This is really a stumper.
Whoa. Just doesn't sound the same without a wah pedal, man.
Wah wah, maybe like a little Leslie somewhere there.
Yeah.
But overall, I'd say you killed it there. I don't think we could have asked for a better off the fly. I mean, you even learned the Muse song right in the middle of it. So, man, you absolutely killed that, man. I don't think anyone could have done the name that riff better than you. I'm gonna have to give you 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. So you got to play some really classic heavy riffs. You've also gotten to play with some incredibly classic guitar players, such as Joe Walsh. I guess you guys played together a couple of years ago. Personal hero of mine. What was it like getting on stage with Joe?
It happened at the what they call the Mopop Center out in Seattle, which used to be the EMP Experience Music Project, Paul Allen's place.
Right.
Yeah, so they renamed it, rebranded Museum of Pop Culture. And a great friend of mine and guitar hero of mine, Audley Freed, who, you're familiar with him. We actually wrote the title track to my album, Anybody Out There? But he had a friend that was working for the Mopop Museum, and they were honoring Joe Walsh with the Founders Award. And Audley was tasked with putting a band together from Nashville to go and be in the house band to back up special guests and honor Joe, who's going to be there, and all that stuff. So Audley called me and said, hey, if you're around, I'd love for you to be the other guitar player in the house band. And of course, I immediately called Jason and Jason's manager, Tracy, and was like, I know we don't have anything on the books right now, but can I please go and do this? This would just be amazing, And they were like, of course. So they blocked it off for me. And I went up there and, man, it was like, my wildest dreams come true. I mean, I got to meet Ringo and hang with him for, I had met Joe before. And so that was cool to get to see him again. I backed up Todd Rundgren, backed up Paul Rogers, Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Robert Randolph. And then of course, Joe and, Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins were also there too. And one of the cool moments was after the concert, we all went to this bar called the 5 Point, near the museum, and Chris Novoselic was hanging out, and Dave, and for like 5 minutes I was in a conversation with just the two of them, and it was just fascinating because I was like,
that's hip.
I'm in Nirvana right now, like I'm and they were just the nicest dudes, and they were just, I was in the house band, so they were really cool, with me. I mean, they were, it was really a crazy cool experience.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if they do like a Nirvana reunion and ask you to come in, like I'm fully coming to see you guys.
Yeah. We talked about it that night. Yeah. I'm waiting for them to call.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff. I mean,
yeah.
They might have to be patient with you.
I got a lot of Zooms, man.
Yeah. So you've gotten to play with a lot of legends, but you're not exactly a lightweight yourself. You guys in 2017 got not only a nomination, but went to the Grammys and won the Grammys with Jason and the 400 unit. How does that make you feel as a musician? I mean, that's kind of like the pinnacle in a lot of ways in terms of at least public recognition.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, not to make it sound like it's not a big of a deal. At the end of the day, it is a trophy. It's still, what you would get playing on a baseball team or softball or whatever when you're a kid, but, being an adult and playing music for a living, it kind of is like the highest honor, and so it certainly was, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And, we got to go and we got to bring our wives and everything. And, I don't think I've ever been more like anxious, like sitting in there, we weren't on the main, like CBS or whatever it is, like TV feed. It's like the ceremony.
Right.
It's when they give out all the good, like, real best rock album and all that's what they do at the pre-ceremony these days. But, man, I don't know. It was nerve wracking. Like you had the program, you were just sitting there watching the awards go down and everything and the categories, and it got to us, and, sure enough we won. And I was like one of the only band members that got to speak. Like Jason was thanking people, and he passed the Grammy to Amanda, and Amanda was like, Sadler, you say something. And like, at that point, you're just burning time up there, And so I was like, oh, okay. So I went up and thanked our road crew and our fans and, my family and stuff. And then it was wrap it up. But, I was extremely grateful that I got to hop on the mic for a hot second.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, listen, Sadler, thanks so much for taking the time and being with us today. We hope to see you guys out on the road again soon. And we hope to see you at the Grammys again soon.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. Thanks for having me, Gordon.
My pleasure. And for everyone out there, definitely go and check out Sadler's new album, Anybody Out There. It's available now. Thanks for watching Live from Nowhere. Again, we're here raising awareness and funds for the unsung heroes of our entertainment industry who are currently all out of work. Thanks to everybody out there. Thanks for everyone involved, and we'll see you next time.